In the hot savanna, a boar faced parasites. Mongooses helped the boar in the wild, but suddenly hunters disrupt the peace of its refuge. In the end, the boar proves that even the giants of nature have an unshakable heart. The scorching sun of the Texas plains mercilessly punished the parched earth. In the middle of this arid landscape, a robust and imposing wild boar walked with determination. His name was Thunder, known by all animals in the region as the bravest and strongest of his kind. His small, cunning eyes scanned the horizon, searching for something that only he seemed to know. As he advanced, leaving behind a cloud of dust, Thunder felt the constant discomfort of ticks clinging to his thick skin. That's why he was heading to the famous spa of the meerkats, a place where these small animals provided a valuable service to the great inhabitants of the plains, ridding them of unwanted parasites. As he approached a group of rocks, Thunder spotted what he was looking for. A colony of meerkats stirred, their slim and agile bodies moving quickly between the stones. The leader of the group, a silver-furred meerkat named Scout, rose on his hind legs at the sight of the huge boar approaching. "Welcome, great Thunder," exclaimed Scout, his shrill voice echoing in the hot air. "I see you've come to pay us a visit." Problems with unwanted tenants again. Thunder grunted in response, nodding his head in affirmation. "You have no idea how irritating these ticks can be. I've come seeking your services, Scout. I hope you and your team are ready for a challenge." Scout laughed, a high-pitched sound that was soon joined by the other meerkats. "For you, my friend, we're always ready." "Come, lie down here near the rocks, where the shade offers some relief from this infernal heat." Obediently, Thunder approached the indicated spot and lay down heavily, letting out a sigh of relief as he felt the coolness of the shade on his body. Immediately, a dozen meerkats approached, their eyes gleaming with the prospect of a hearty meal of ticks. While the small cleaners began their meticulous work, Thunder closed his eyes, allowing himself to relax for the first time in days. The relief was almost immediate, and he could feel the tension leaving his body as the meerkats removed the parasites one by one. However, something in the air made his ears twitch, catching a distant sound. His eyes suddenly opened, and he raised his head, alert. Scout, who was supervising his team's work, noticed the sudden change in the boar's behavior. "What is it, Thunder?" asked the meerkat, his own posture shifting to one of alertness. Thunder sniffed the air, his sharp senses picking up something that others hadn't yet noticed. "Something's wrong, Scout. The wind, it brings a strange smell." "A smell that doesn't belong to the plains." Intrigued, Scout climbed onto a nearby rock, his keen eyes scanning the horizon. For a moment, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but then he saw it. A dust cloud in the distance, moving in an unnatural way. "You're right, Thunder," said Scout, his voice now laden with concern. "Something's approaching." "Something that's not animal." The boar rose abruptly, causing the meerkat still working on his skin to jump in surprise. "It's them," growled Thunder, his eyes now fixed on the direction of the dust cloud. "The poachers!" A murmur of fear ran through the group of meerkats. They had heard stories about these humans, who came to the plains not to observe but to capture and hurt. Scout, sensing the growing panic among his people, quickly took control of the situation. "Calm down, all of you," he ordered. "We need to think clearly. Thunder, what should we do?" The boar pondered for a moment, his mind working quickly to formulate a plan. "You need to hide," he finally said. "Your burrow's in the rocks. Go there and don't come out until I say it's safe." Scout hesitated. "What about you, my friend? We can't leave you here alone to face these invaders." Thunder shook his head, determination shining in his eyes. "I can handle them. I'm too big to be easy prey. You, on the other hand, are exactly the kind of animal they look for." Small, easy to capture and transport. The leader of the meerkats knew Thunder was right, but the idea of abandoning a friend deeply troubled him. However, he also had a responsibility to his people. "All right," Scout agreed reluctantly, "but promise you'll be careful, and if you need help, just call." "We'll be ready." With a nod, Thunder watched as Scout quickly organized his group, guiding them to the safety of the burrows among the rocks. In a matter of minutes, the area that had previously bustled with activity was silent and seemingly deserted. Alone now, Thunder turned to face the direction from which the threat was coming. The dust cloud was closer now, and he could hear the distinct sound of an engine. His heart beat strongly in his chest, but not from fear. It was the adrenaline of the imminent battle that ran through his veins. While preparing for the confrontation, Thunder couldn't help but think about how a simple visit to the meerkat's spa had turned into something so dangerous. But he was determined to protect his friends no matter the cost. The engine sound grew louder, and Thunder planted his feet firmly on the ground, ready for whatever might come. The plains, which moments before had seemed so peaceful, were now charged with tension. The stage was set for a confrontation that would forever change the lives of Thunder and the meerkats. And so, with the relentless sun above and danger approaching, the brave boar prepared to face the unknown, determined to defend not only himself, but also those who relied on him for their protection. The roar of the engine grew louder, reverberating across the plains and breaking the silence that had settled. Thunder, the brave boar, stood firm, his hooves planted in the dry earth, while his small, astute eyes fixed on the direction of the approaching sound. Suddenly, emerging from behind a distant hill, appeared an all-terrain vehicle. It was large, noisy, and left behind a cloud of dust that seemed to want to swallow the entire landscape. Inside it, Thunder could see the silhouettes of three men, their faces hidden by wide-brimmed hats and dark glasses. The boar's heart accelerated, but not from fear. It was the adrenaline of imminent battle that pulsed through his veins. He knew he was the only line of defense between these invaders and his meerkat friends, hidden in the rocky burrows behind him. The vehicle slowed as it approached, and Thunder could hear the excited voices of the men. They spoke in a language he didn't understand, but the tone of their voices made it clear they had spotted something that interested them. "Look what we've got here," exclaimed one of the men, pointing at Thunder. "A huge wild boar." "Now that's what I call luck." "Forget it," replied another, shaking his head. "We came for smaller prey. This beast is too big to transport." The third man, who seemed to be the leader, looked at Thunder with a mixture of admiration and caution. True, he's too big to take. But where there's such a large animal, there must be smaller ones nearby. Thunder watched every movement of the hunters carefully. He could smell the fear emanating from the burrows behind him, where the meerkats were hiding. He knew he needed to act, and fast. With a deep grunt that sounded more like thunder, Thunder advanced a few steps toward the vehicle. His posture was threatening, sharp tusks on display, bristles raised along his massive back. The men, surprised by the sudden show of aggression, instinctively backed away. "Watch out!" shouted one of them. "This beast looks furious!" The group's leader, however, didn't seem willing to back down so easily. With a quick movement, he grabbed something from the vehicle's back seat, a large, heavy net clearly designed to capture animals. "Let's catch this tough guy," he said with a malicious smile. "It might not be what we came for, but it'll certainly be worth the effort." Thunder observed the men's preparations with a mixture of anger and determination. He knew he couldn't allow these invaders to stay there for long. The longer they remained, the greater the risk of discovering the meerkats. With a deafening roar that echoed across the plains, Thunder charged at the vehicle. The impact was tremendous, causing the all-terrain vehicle to rock violently, and the men to cry out in surprise and fear. "He's crazy!" yelled one of the hunters, clinging to the seat to avoid falling. The leader, however, wasn't willing to give up so easily. "Don't back down," he shouted to his companions. "Ready the net. We're going to catch this monster." As the men regrouped, Thunder backed up a few steps, preparing for another attack. He could taste the danger in the air, but also the heavy responsibility on his shoulders. It wasn't just for himself that he fought, but for all the animals of the plains that these men threatened. In the midst of the chaos, a movement in the rocks caught Thunder's attention. It was Scout, the leader of the meerkats, who had emerged from his hiding place and was watching the scene with wide eyes of concern. "Thunder," whispered Scout, his voice barely audible amid the confusion. "Be careful, they have weapons." The boar nodded discreetly, grateful for the warning. He knew he needed to be smart, not just strong. The men had technology on their side, but Thunder had knowledge of the terrain and the strength of his determination. As the hunters prepared to launch the net, Thunder made a bold decision. Instead of attacking the vehicle again, he turned and began running towards a nearby ravine, known to all local animals but invisible to strangers until they were very close. "He's running away!" shouted one of the men. "After him!" The vehicle roared to life again, chasing Thunder across the plains. The boar ran with all his might, leading the hunters away from the meerkats' burrows and towards the hidden danger ahead. Scout and the other meerkats watched the scene unfold, their hearts racing with fear and admiration for their friend's courage. "May the spirits of the plains protect him," murmured Scout, his voice heavy with emotion. As Thunder approached the ravine, he could hear the vehicle rapidly gaining ground. The soil beneath his hooves began to change, becoming looser and more treacherous. He knew he was reaching the critical point. With a final effort, Thunder made a sharp turn, veering away from the path to the ravine at the last second. The vehicle, heavy and lacking the boar's agility, couldn't make the turn in time. The hunters' cry of surprise and terror echoed across the plains when they realized too late the danger ahead. The vehicle skidded, its wheels losing traction on the edge of the ravine. Thunder stopped and turned, watching the scene with a mixture of relief and concern. He didn't want to hurt the men, just drive them away. For a moment that seemed like an eternity, the vehicle teetered precariously on the edge of the precipice. Then, in a last desperate effort, the driver managed to reverse the vehicle, pulling it away from the edge of the ravine. The all-terrain vehicle stopped, a few meters from disaster, with the engine roaring and the men inside panting and visibly shaken. Thunder watched as the hunters, still trembling, slowly got out of the vehicle. Their faces were pale, and fear was evident in their eyes. The leader, who had seemed so confident before, now looked at Thunder with newfound respect. "I think we underestimated this place," he said, his voice shaky, "and its inhabitants." Without saying anything more, the men got back into the vehicle. This time, however, it wasn't to pursue, but to depart. The engine roared one last time, and the all-terrain vehicle began to move away, leaving behind only a cloud of dust. Thunder remained where he was, watching until the vehicle disappeared over the horizon. Only then, with the certainty that the danger had passed, did he allow himself to relax. His body ached from the effort, but his heart was light with victory. Slowly, he turned and began walking back to the rocks where the meerkats were hiding. As he approached, he saw small heads beginning to emerge from the burrows, eyes bright with admiration and gratitude. Scout was the first to come out completely, running to meet the great boar. "Thunder!" he exclaimed, his voice full of emotion. "You did it! You saved us!" The boar lowered his head, gently touching the small meerkat with his snout. "We did this together, my friend," he said softly. "Your warning about the weapons helped me think of a better plan." Gradually, all the meerkats came out of their hiding places, surrounding Thunder with shouts of joy and gratitude. The great boar looked around at the smiling faces of his small friends and felt a wave of warmth course through his body. At that moment, under the scorching sun of the plains, Thunder understood that he had found something more valuable than any spa could offer. He had found a family, a place where he belonged. And so, as the sun began to set on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Thunder and the meerkats celebrated their victory and the strength of their newly forged friendship, knowing that together they could face any challenge the future might hold for them. The days that followed Thunder's victory over the poachers were ones of peace and celebration on the plains. News of his bravery spread quickly, and animals of all species came to pay their respects to the courageous boar. Thunder, however, remained humble, insisting that his action was merely the fulfillment of a duty to his friends. The routine at the meerkat's spa had resumed its normal course, with Thunder making regular visits to rid himself of unwanted ticks. But something had changed. The bond between the boar and the meerkat colony, especially with Scout, had strengthened considerably after the incident. On a particularly hot afternoon, as Thunder enjoyed the care of his small friends, Scout approached with a worried expression on his sharp snout. "Thunder, my friend," the meerkat began, his voice low and cautious. "I've been hearing troubling rumors from the other side of the river." The boar raised his head, his attentive eyes fixed on the small leader. "What kind of rumors, Scout?" The meerkat hesitated for a moment before continuing. "They say a group of coyotes has settled there. Not the common coyotes we know, but a different, more aggressive species. They've been causing problems, disturbing the balance of the region." Thunder frowned, processing the information. Coyotes were known to be opportunists, but they usually didn't pose a significant threat to the other inhabitants of the plains. A new species, however, could change that dynamic. "What else do you know about them?" asked Thunder, his deep voice reflecting the seriousness of the situation. Scout shook his head. "Not much, unfortunately. But I've heard they're larger and stronger than common coyotes, and what's more worrying, they seem to disregard the unwritten laws of the plains. They've been attacking without provocation even during the day." The news was disturbing. The plains functioned with a delicate balance, where each species had its role and its territory. A new threat could destabilize this entire system. "We need to investigate this further," declared Thunder, standing up. "If this threat is real, we'll all be in danger." Scout nodded, but his eyes shimmered with concern. "I agree, but how will we do it?" Crossing the river isn't an easy task, especially for us meerkats. Thunder reflected for a moment, his gaze wandering over the plains stretching before them. Then, an idea came to his mind. "What if we asked the bison for help?" he suggested. "They can cross the river easily and help us investigate." Scout's eyes widened at the suggestion. "The bison?" "But they rarely get involved in other species' affairs." "True," agreed Thunder, "but this isn't a common situation. If these coyotes pose a threat to the entire plains, the bison will also be in danger. Besides," he added with a smile, "I have an old friend among them who might help us." Scout looked at Thunder with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "You never cease to amaze me, my friend." "Who is this bison friend of yours?" "Her name is Luna," replied Thunder, a glimmer of affection in his eyes. "We grew up together on these plains. She's wise and fair, and I'm sure she'll understand the gravity of the situation." With a plan in mind, Thunder and Scout gathered a small group of brave meerkats to accompany them on their journey to the bison territory. The trip wouldn't be easy, but the urgency of the situation compelled them to act quickly. At dawn the next day, the unusual group set out. Thunder led the way, his robust body clearing a path through the tall grass. Scout and the other meerkats followed closely behind, their agile bodies easily adapting to the boar's pace. The journey took them through golden plains, where herds of deer and antelope grazed peacefully. They passed by small oases where animals of all species gathered to drink and refresh themselves. At each stop, Thunder and Scout took the opportunity to gather more information about the mysterious coyotes, but the news was always vague and contradictory. After a full day of travel, the group finally spotted the majestic oak tree that marked the entrance to the bison territory. As they approached, they could hear the low, rumbling sound of the grey giants' voices. Thunder signaled for the group to stop at a respectful distance. "Wait here," he instructed. "I'll go ahead and speak with Luna." "If all goes well, I'll come back for you." Scout nodded, though the apprehension in his eyes was visible. "Be careful, my friend. The bison can be unpredictable." With a reassuring nod to his companions, Thunder advanced towards the oak tree. As he approached, he saw a familiar figure emerge from behind the enormous tree. It was Luna, as majestic as he remembered, her dark fur shimmering under the setting sun. "Thunder?" Luna's voice was soft, but filled with surprise. "Is that really you, my old friend?" The boar bowed his head in respect. "Yes, Luna, it's me. Forgive me for appearing without warning, but I come with an urgent matter." The bison approached, her wise eyes studying Thunder's face. "It must be truly serious to bring you here after so long. Tell me, what troubles you?" Thunder then related to Luna everything they had heard about the new coyotes, their potential threat, and the need to investigate beyond the river. As he spoke, he could see concern growing in his old friend's eyes. "This is indeed disturbing," said Luna when Thunder finished his report. "If what you say is true, the entire plains may be in danger, but crossing the river and entering unknown territory is not a decision to be taken lightly." Thunder nodded, understanding Luna's hesitation. "I know, my friend. That's why I came to you." "We need your wisdom and strength to face this threat." Luna remained silent for a long moment, her gaze lost on the horizon where the sun was beginning to set. Finally, she turned to Thunder, determination shining in her eyes. "You're right, old friend. We cannot ignore this threat. I will gather a group of bison willing to help." "Tomorrow at dawn, we'll set out for the other side of the river." Relief flooded Thunder. With the bison by their side, their chances of success had increased considerably. "Thank you, Luna. Your help means more than I can express." The bison smiled, a surprisingly gentle gesture for such an imposing creature. "We are all children of these plains, Thunder." "It's our duty to protect them." As the sun disappeared over the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Thunder returned to where Scout and the other meerkats were anxiously waiting. Seeing the smile on the boar's face, the small leader knew the news was good. "They agreed to help us," Thunder announced. "Tomorrow we'll cross the river with the bison." A murmur of excitement ran through the group of meerkats. The prospect of traveling with the majestic bison was both thrilling and intimidating. That night, as the group rested under the stars, preparing for the journey ahead, Thunder couldn't help but feel a mixture of apprehension and determination. Whatever lay beyond the river, he knew they would face it together. The unlikely union between a wild boar, a group of meerkats, and a herd of bison was a testament to the power of friendship and courage in the face of adversity. And so, with the distant sound of the bison and the soft snoring of the meerkats around him, Thunder fell asleep, dreaming of the adventures that awaited them beyond the great river. Dawn arrived with an explosion of colors in the plain sky, painting the clouds with shades of pink and orange. Thunder, Scout, and the meerkats awoke to the rhythmic sound of heavy steps approaching. It was Luna, leading a group of 5 robust and determined bison. "Good morning, my friends," greeted Luna, her voice deep but gentle. "I hope you're ready for the journey that awaits us." Thunder stood up, shaking the dust from his thick fur. "We're more than ready, Luna." "I can't express how much we appreciate your help." Scout, who had been observing the bison with a mixture of admiration and apprehension, stepped forward. "On behalf of all the meerkats, we thank you too. Your strength and wisdom will be invaluable in this mission." Luna inclined her great head in acknowledgement. "The plains are home to all of us." If there's a threat, we must face it united. With introductions made, the unusual group began their journey towards the river. The bison led the way, their massive bodies creating a path through the tall grass. Thunder walked just behind them, with Scout and the other meerkats alternating between running alongside the boar and riding on his back to rest. As they advanced, the landscape began to change. The golden grass of the plains gave way to denser, greener vegetation. The air became more humid, and the distant sound of running water reached their ears. "The river is near," announced Luna, her large ears moving to capture the sounds around them. "We must be careful from here on." "We don't know what we might encounter on the banks." The group moved forward with more caution, all senses on alert. When they finally reached the river's edge, they were impressed by the sight. The body of water was much wider and more turbulent than they had imagined. Scout looked at the churning water with evident concern. "How are we going to cross this?" "The current seems too strong." Luna stepped forward, her posture confident. "Don't worry, little one. We bison are excellent swimmers. We'll carry you safely to the other side." The idea of crossing the river on the back of a bison was both exciting and terrifying for the meerkats. Thunder, noticing the hesitation of his small friends, decided to lead by example. "Come on, Scout," he said, carefully climbing onto Luna's back. "Trust our bison friends, they won't let us down." Encouraged by Thunder's confidence, Scout and the other meerkats distributed themselves among the bison, clinging tightly to the thick fur of their improvised carriers. With everyone on board, Luna gave the signal and the bison began to enter the water. The first contact with the cold current made the meerkats gasp in surprise, but they soon got used to the sensation. As they advanced through the river, the current grew stronger. The bison, however, remained steady, their powerful legs fighting against the force of the water. Thunder watched with admiration at the strength and determination of his giant friends. Midway through the crossing, a sharp cry cut through the air. One of the meerkats had slipped and fallen into the turbulent water. Without hesitation, Thunder leaped from Luna's back and plunged into the icy water. "Thunder!" Scout cried out, his heart racing with fear. For a few tense seconds there was no sign of the boar or the meerkat. Then, to everyone's relief, Thunder emerged, holding the small animal safely between his teeth. Luna quickly approached, allowing Thunder and the rescued meerkat to climb back onto her back. "Well done, my friend," the bison praised. "Your courage knows no bounds." With the scare behind them, the group continued their crossing. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they reached the opposite shore. Soaked but safe, they all disembarked on the new land. As they shook themselves dry, Thunder and Scout observed their surroundings. The landscape was subtly different from what they were accustomed to. The trees seemed taller, the grass darker, and there was a strange silence in the air. "Stay alert," Luna warned, her eyes scanning the area. "We're in unknown territory now." She had barely finished speaking when a twig snapped nearby. Everyone quickly turned towards the sound, tense and prepared for anything. From behind a bush emerged an unexpected figure. It wasn't a coyote as they feared, but a young mountain lion. His amber eyes shone with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Who are you?" asked the mountain lion, his voice surprisingly soft for a predator. "And what are you doing in this part of the plains?" Thunder stepped forward, placing himself between the newcomer and his friends. "We are travelers from beyond the river," he responded, keeping his tone calm but firm. "We've come to investigate rumors about a new threat in these lands." The mountain lion tilted his head, intrigued. "Threat? Ah, you must be talking about the coyotes." Scout, his curiosity overcoming fear, approached. "So it's true? There really are dangerous coyotes here?" The young feline nodded gravely. "Yes, they arrived a few moons ago. They're different from anything we've seen before. Larger, more aggressive. They don't respect the laws of the plains." Luna exchanged a worried look with Thunder. Their suspicions were being confirmed, and the situation seemed even more serious than they had imagined. "Can you tell us more?" Luna asked gently. "Any information will be valuable." The mountain lion looked nervously over his shoulder before responding. "I can do better than that." "I can take you to a safe place where we can talk more. My name is Ridge, by the way." Thunder studied the young mountain lion for a moment before making a decision. "Very well, Ridge. Lead us to this safe place. But know that if this is a trap..." Ridge shook his head vigorously. No, I swear on my hunter's honor, I just want to help." "These coyotes are a threat to all of us." With some hesitation, the group agreed to follow Ridge. As they walked through the dense vegetation, Thunder couldn't help but feel they were delving deeper into a mystery that could change the fate of the entire plains. The sun was already high in the sky when Ridge led them to a hidden clearing, surrounded by tall rocks and leafy trees. It was a naturally protected location, ideal for a delicate conversation. "We'll be safe here," said Ridge, sitting on a flat rock. "Now let me tell you everything I know about these coyotes." As the young mountain lion began his narrative, Thunder, Scout, Luna, and the others listened intently. Ridge's revelations promised to shed light on the mystery that had brought them there, but also threatened to bring to the surface new and alarming challenges. "The coyotes arrived about 3 moons ago," Ridge began, his amber eyes reflecting a mix of fear and determination. "At first we thought they were just a new group migrating to the area. But we soon realized there was something different about them." Scout, perched on Thunder's back, leaned forward, his ears attentive to every word. "Different how?" he asked. "They're larger than common coyotes," explained Ridge, "and stronger too. But it's not just that, they seem smarter, organized in a way we've never seen before." Luna shook her great head, concerned. "That's alarming." "Coyotes are usually already cunning creatures. If these are even more intelligent—" "Exactly," agreed Ridge. "They're not content with hunting for food. They're trying to dominate the entire territory. They've already driven out several groups of animals from their traditional areas." Thunder frowned, his mind working to process the information. "But why?" "What's their goal?" Ridge shook his head, frustrated. "That's what we can't understand. They seem to be following some kind of plan, but no one knows what it is. What we do know is that they're expanding more and more, and nothing seems to stop them." A heavy silence fell over the group as they all absorbed Ridge's words. The situation seemed even more serious than they had initially imagined. It was Scout who finally broke the silence. "What about their leader? Every pack has a leader, right?" Ridge's eyes widened slightly. "Ah, yes, the leader. They call him Shadow." "Shadow?" repeated Thunder, intrigued. "That's a strange name for a coyote." "He's not an ordinary coyote," said Ridge, lowering his voice as if afraid of being overheard. "They say he's twice the size of the other coyotes. His fur is almost black, and he has a scar that runs from his left eye to his chin, hence the name." Luna exchanged a worried look with Thunder. "Such a leader must be formidable. How can we hope to face such a threat?" "Together," Thunder replied firmly. "That's why we're here." "United, we're stronger than any threat." Thunder's words seemed to infuse new courage into the group. Even Ridge looked impressed by the boar's determination. "You're brave," said the mountain lion, a shy smile forming on his face. Maybe there's hope after all." Scout jumped from Thunder's back and approached Ridge. "Ridge, you know this area well. Can you show us where the coyotes are concentrating?" The young mountain lion hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. "I can. There's a valley not far from here where they've established their main territory, but it's dangerous to get too close." "We need to see for ourselves," declared Thunder. "Only then can we plan our next step." Luna agreed. Thunder is right. We need more information before we decide how to act. With the decision made, the group prepared to depart. Ridge would guide them to a safe observation point near the Coyotes Valley. The tension was palpable, but there was also a sense of shared purpose. As they walked through the unknown plains following Ridge, each member of the group was immersed in their own thoughts. Thunder reflected on the responsibility he felt to protect not only his friends, but the entire plains. Scout thought about the strategies they could use against an apparently superior enemy. Luna considered how the strength of the bison could be best utilized in this delicate situation. The group moved carefully through the dense vegetation, with Ridge leading the way. The young mountain lion's movements were graceful and silent. a stark contrast to the heavy steps of the bison and Thunder's determined trot. The meerkats, agile and alert, darted between the larger animals, their eyes constantly scanning for any sign of danger. As they approached the valley, Ridge signaled for them to stop. "We're getting close," he whispered. "From here on, we need to be extra careful. The coyotes have scouts everywhere." Thunder nodded, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the area. "How do we proceed?" Ridge pointed to a small hill nearby. "There's a good vantage point up there. We can observe the valley without being easily spotted." Slowly and cautiously, the group made their way up the hill. When they reached the top, they crouched behind some large rocks and peered into the valley below. What they saw made their hearts sink. The valley was teeming with activity. Dozens of coyotes, larger and more muscular than any they had seen before, moved about with purpose. In the center of the valley stood a large, craggy rock formation that seemed to serve as their headquarters. "There," Ridge whispered, pointing to a figure emerging from a cave in the rock formation. "That's Shadow." Even from a distance, Shadow was an imposing sight. He was indeed much larger than the other coyotes, his dark fur making him stand out among his pack. The scar on his face was visible even from their hiding spot, giving him a fierce and intimidating appearance. Scout gasped softly. "He's even more formidable than I imagined." Luna's eyes narrowed as she observed the scene. "Look at how organized they are. This isn't just a pack, it's an army." Thunder watched in silence, his mind racing. The situation was indeed dire, perhaps even worse than they had anticipated. But as he looked at his friends, the brave meerkats, the stalwart bison, and their new ally Ridge, he felt a surge of determination. "We may be outnumbered," Thunder said in a low, determined voice, "but we have something they don't: unity across species. Our diversity is our strength." Scout nodded in agreement, his small eyes shining with resolve. "Thunder's right." We each bring unique skills to this challenge. We just need to figure out how to use them effectively. As they continued to observe, they noticed something peculiar. At regular intervals, groups of coyotes would leave the valley, heading in different directions. "What are they doing?" Luna asked, her brow furrowed in concern. Ridge's expression darkened. "Raiding parties." "They go out to terrorize other animals and expand their territory. It's how they've been growing their influence." Thunder's jaw clenched. "We need to stop this." "But how?" As if in answer to his question, a commotion erupted in the valley below. A group of coyotes had returned, dragging with them a captive, a young deer clearly frightened and struggling against its captors. The sight filled the group with a mixture of horror and anger. It was one thing to hear about the coyotes' misdeeds, but witnessing it firsthand was entirely different. "We can't just stand by and watch this happen," Scout said, his voice trembling with emotion. Thunder nodded, a plan already forming in his mind. "You're right, we can't, and we won't." "I have an idea, but it's risky." Luna turned to her old friend, curiosity and concern in her eyes. "What are you thinking, Thunder?" The boar took a deep breath before explaining. "We need to send a message. Show them that the plains won't bow to their tyranny. I propose we rescue that deer." The others looked at him in shock. Ridge was the first to speak. That's insane." "It's too dangerous, but Thunder's determination was unwavering. It's risky, yes, but it's also our best chance to make a stand and gather allies. If we can show others that the coyotes can be defied, we might inspire a larger resistance. Scout, despite his initial shock, found himself nodding in agreement. Thunder's right. This could be our chance to show everyone that these coyotes aren't invincible. Luna, ever the voice of reason, interjected, "But we need a solid plan. We can't just charge in there blindly." Thunder nodded, appreciating Luna's pragmatism. "Of course. Here's what I'm thinking. We need to create a diversion to draw their attention away from the captive deer." Then a small, fast group can sneak in and free it. Ridge, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. I know these valleys better than anyone. I could guide the rescue team." The others looked at the young mountain lion with newfound respect. His offer was brave, considering the risk involved. "Thank you, Ridge," Thunder said warmly. "Your knowledge will be invaluable." They spent the next hour meticulously planning their rescue mission. Luna and the other bison would create the diversion by making a lot of noise and commotion on the far side of the valley. Meanwhile, Thunder, Ridge, Scout, and 2 other meerkats would form the rescue team. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the valley, the group prepared to put their plan into action. The tension was palpable, each of them knowing the high stakes of what they were about to attempt. Thunder looked at each of his companions, his heart swelling with pride and determination. "Remember," he said softly, "no matter what happens, we're in this together." We're fighting for something bigger than ourselves. We're fighting for the freedom and safety of all the animals in these plains. Scout placed a tiny paw on Thunder's leg. "We're with you, my friend, to the end." With final nods of understanding exchanged, the group split up. Luna led the bison towards their position, while Thunder, Ridge, Scout, and the 2 meerkats began their stealthy approach towards the captive deer. As they crept through the lengthening shadows, Thunder couldn't help but feel that this moment would change everything. For better or worse, the fate of the plains would be decided tonight. As darkness settled over the valley, Luna and her bison companions took their positions on the far side. They waited for the agreed-upon signal, a distinctive bird call that Scout had taught them. Meanwhile, Thunder, Ridge, Scout, and the 2 meerkats carefully made their way down the hillside, using the growing shadows as cover. They moved silently, their senses heightened by the danger surrounding them. When they were in position, Scout let out a soft, melodious whistle, a perfect imitation of a nightjar's call. Moments later, the peaceful night was shattered by a thunderous commotion. Luna and the bison had begun their diversion, charging and bellowing on the far side of the valley. The effect was immediate. Coyotes began rushing towards the disturbance, their howls of alarm filling the air. "Now!" Thunder whispered urgently. The rescue team sprang into action. Ridge led the way, his knowledge of the terrain proving invaluable as they navigated through the chaos. They reached the area where the young deer was being held, finding it less guarded than before. The deer, a young doe, was tied to a stake with vines. Her eyes widened in fear as they approached, but Scout quickly scampered up to her. "We're here to help," he whispered, his tiny paws already working on the knots. "Please, try to stay calm." Thunder and Ridge stood guard while the meerkats worked to free the deer. Every second felt like an eternity, the sounds of the diversion seeming to grow more distant. Finally, Scout called out, "She's free!" But their relief was short-lived. A menacing growl cut through the air, freezing them in their tracks. They turned to see a large, dark figure emerging from the shadows. It was Shadow. The coyote leader's eyes gleamed in the darkness. His scarred face twisted in a snarl. "Well, well," he growled, his voice deep and threatening. "What do we have here?" Thunder quickly positioned himself between Shadow and the others, his bristles raised and tusks bared. "We're leaving," he declared firmly, "and we're taking her with us." Shadow's laugh was cold and mirthless. "Brave words from a foolish boar. Do you really think you can challenge me in my own territory?" As if on cue, more coyotes began to emerge from the shadows, surrounding the rescue team. The situation had suddenly become much more dangerous. Ridge, despite his fear, stepped forward to stand beside Thunder. "This isn't just your territory, Shadow. These plains belong to all of us." Shadow's eyes narrowed. "Ah, the young mountain lion, I wondered when you'd show your face again. Brave, but stupid." Scout, perched on the deer's back, whispered urgently, "We need to move now." Thunder knew they were running out of options. They couldn't fight their way out. They were outnumbered and had the young deer to protect. But surrender wasn't an option either. Just as Shadow was about to signal his pack to attack, a deafening bellow echoed through the valley. Luna and the other bison had realized something was wrong and were now charging towards them, creating a path of chaos through the coyote ranks. "Run!" Thunder roared. The group sprang into action. The young deer, emboldened by her rescuers, leapt forward with surprising speed. Thunder and Ridge flanked her, providing protection, while Scout and the other meerkats clung to her back. Shadow snarled in fury. "Don't let them escape!" The coyotes gave chase, but the rescue team had the advantage of surprise and the chaos created by the charging bison. They raced through the valley, dodging snapping jaws and leaping over obstacles. As they neared the valley's edge, Luna and two other bison broke away from the main group to run alongside them, providing additional cover. "Keep going!" Luna shouted. "We'll hold them off." With Luna and the bison creating a protective barrier between them and the pursuing coyotes, Thunder, Ridge, Scout, and the rescued deer pushed on with renewed energy. They raced through the unfamiliar terrain, guided by Ridge's knowledge and driven by the urgent need to escape. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of the coyotes' frustrated howls and the thundering of the bison's hooves as Luna and her companions continued to disrupt the chase. The cacophony slowly faded as they put more distance between themselves and the valley. As they ran, Thunder's mind raced. They had succeeded in their immediate goal of rescuing the deer, but at what cost? They had revealed themselves to Shadow and his pack, and now the coyotes knew they had organized opposition. The element of surprise was gone. After what felt like hours of relentless running, Ridge finally signaled for them to slow down. They had reached a dense thicket far from the coyotes' territory. "We can rest here for a moment," Ridge panted, his sides heaving. "I don't think they followed us this far." The young deer, trembling from exhaustion and residual fear, collapsed to the ground. Scout and the other meerkats immediately began checking her for injuries. "Are you all right?" Scout asked gently, his tiny paws patting her flank reassuringly. The deer nodded weakly. "Yeah, thank you, all of you." I thought I was done for." Thunder, despite his own fatigue, stood vigilant at the edge of the thicket, his ears pricked for any sign of pursuit. "What's your name?" he asked the deer. "Fawn," she replied, her voice growing stronger. "My name is Fawn." Ridge, who had been scanning the area, suddenly perked up. "I hear something coming." "It sounds big." They all tensed, ready for another confrontation, but their fears turned to relief as Luna and the two other bison emerged from the darkness. "Luna!" Thunder exclaimed. "You made it!" Luna approached, her massive form moving with surprising grace, despite her obvious fatigue. "We did," she said, a mix of relief and concern in her voice, "but we've stirred up a hornet's nest." "Shadow and his pack won't take this lightly." Thunder nodded grimly. "I know, but we couldn't stand by and do nothing. At least now we've shown that they can be challenged." Scout, who had been tending to Fawn, spoke up. "What do we do now?" "We can't go back to our side of the river. They'll be watching for us." Ridge, who had been quiet, suddenly perked up. "I have an idea." "There's a place not far from here, a hidden valley that few know about. It's defensible and has fresh water. We could use it as a base while we figure out our next move." The group exchanged looks, considering the suggestion. It seemed like their best option given the circumstances. "Lead the way, Ridge," Thunder decided, "but we'll need to move carefully." "We don't know if we're still being pursued." With Ridge guiding them, the unusual group set off once more. They moved more slowly now, exhaustion setting in, but determination kept them going. Fawn, though still weak, insisted on walking on her own, not wanting to burden her rescuers further. As they traveled, Luna fell into step beside Thunder. "You know," she said quietly, "what we did tonight, it changes everything. We've declared ourselves against Shadow and his pack." Thunder nodded solemnly. "I know. But sometimes, standing up for what's right means taking risks. We couldn't allow them to continue terrorizing the plains." Luna's eyes shone with admiration. "You're right, of course." "I just hope we're prepared for what comes next." As the first light of dawn began to paint the sky, Ridge led them into a narrow pass between two hills. "We're almost there," he announced. "Just a little further." They rounded a bend, and suddenly a hidden valley opened up before them. It was a beautiful sight, a small oasis of green in the midst of the rugged terrain, with a clear stream running through its center. "Welcome to our new home," Ridge said, a hint of pride in his voice. "At least for now." The group entered the hidden valley, their weary spirits lifting at the sight of the peaceful oasis. The stream gurgled invitingly, and patches of lush grass promised rest for their tired bodies. "This is perfect," Scout exclaimed, his eyes wide with wonder. "How did you know about this place, Ridge?" The young mountain lion's expression softened. "My mother showed it to me when I was a cub. She called it our secret sanctuary for times of trouble." "I never thought I'd need to use it, but I'm glad I remembered." As they settled in, each member of the group found a spot to rest. The bison lowered their massive bodies near the stream, while Fawn found a soft patch of grass to lay on. Thunder and Ridge positioned themselves at the valley's entrance, ever vigilant. Scout and the other meerkats, despite their exhaustion, couldn't help but explore their new surroundings. Their natural curiosity drove them to investigate every nook and cranny of the hidden valley. As the sun rose higher in the sky, warming the valley, the group began to discuss their next steps. "We've bought ourselves some time," Thunder began, addressing everyone. "But Shadow and his pack won't give up easily. We need a plan." Luna nodded in agreement. "We also need to find a way to communicate with our friends on the other side of the river. They need to know what's happening." Fawn, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. I want to help. You saved me, and I want to do my part to stop Shadow and his pack." Thunder smiled at the young deer's bravery. "Thank you, Fawn. We'll need all the help we can get." Ridge, who had been deep in thought, suddenly perked up. "I have an idea. There are other animals in these parts who have been affected by the coyotes. If we can reach out to them, maybe we can build an alliance." Scout's eyes lit up. "A united front against Shadow, that's brilliant." Thunder nodded approvingly. "Ridge is right. We're stronger together, but we'll need to be careful about how we approach this. We can't risk leading Shadow's scouts back here." Luna, ever practical, added, "We should divide into teams. Some of us can stay here to fortify this sanctuary and care for those who need rest, while others can go out to make contact with potential allies." "Good idea," Thunder agreed. "Scout, you and your meerkats are the fastest and stealthiest among us. Do you think you could serve as messengers?" Scout puffed out his chest proudly. "Absolutely. We can slip in and out of places unnoticed. Just tell us where to go." Ridge stepped forward. "I can guide them." "I know which groups might be most receptive to joining us." As they continued to plan, Fawn, who had been listening intently, spoke up again. "I may be able to help too. My herd, they must be worried about me. If I could reach them, I'm sure they'd join our cause." Thunder looked at the young deer with newfound respect. "That's brave of you, Fawn, but it could be dangerous." "Are you sure?" Fawn nodded resolutely. "I'm sure. You all risked yourselves to save me. It's time I did my part." With roles beginning to take shape, the group spent the rest of the day preparing. Scout and his meerkats practiced secret signals and coded messages. Ridge drew rough maps in the dirt, showing the locations of potential allies. Luna and the other bison worked on fortifying the valley entrance, using their strength to move large rocks into defensive positions. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across their hidden sanctuary, Thunder called everyone together one last time. "Tomorrow we begin our mission in earnest," he said, his voice filled with determination. Some of us will venture out to gather allies, while others will stay to protect and strengthen our base. Remember, what we're doing isn't just for us. It's for every animal in these plains who deserves to live free from fear." He looked at each of his companions, the brave meerkats, the wise bison, the courageous young deer, and the loyal mountain lion. Despite the danger ahead, Thunder felt a surge of hope. They had already accomplished so much together. United, there was no telling what they could achieve. "Get some rest," he concluded. "Tomorrow we start changing the fate of the plains." As the new day dawned, the hidden valley buzzed with activity. The group, rejuvenated by rest and united in purpose, prepared to set their plans in motion. Scout gathered his team of meerkats, their small bodies quivering with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Remember," he instructed, "quick and quiet. If you sense any danger, don't hesitate to retreat. Our safety is paramount." Ridge stood beside them, ready to guide them through the unfamiliar terrain. "We'll start with the rabbits in the eastern meadows," he explained. "They've suffered greatly under Shadow's reign. They'll likely be eager to join us." Meanwhile, Fawn prepared for her own mission. Luna had volunteered to accompany her, providing protection on the journey to find her herd. "Are you sure about this?" Thunder asked Fawn one last time, concern evident in his voice. The young deer's eyes shone with determination. "I am." "My herd needs to know what's happening, and I need to know they're safe." Thunder nodded, respecting her decision. "Very well. Luna will keep you safe. If you run into any trouble, we'll turn back immediately," Luna assured him. "Don't worry, old friend, we'll be careful." As the two groups prepared to depart, Thunder felt a mix of pride and anxiety. He knew the risks they were taking, but also understood the necessity of their actions. "Remember," he addressed them all, "you're not just messengers. You're the spark that will ignite hope across the plains. Be brave, be smart, and come back safely." With final nods of determination, the group set out. Scout and his meerkats, led by Ridge, darted into the underbrush, quickly disappearing from sight. Luna and Fawn took a different path, the young deer's graceful steps matched by the bison's powerful stride. Thunder watched them go, his heart heavy with the weight of responsibility. He then turned to those remaining in the valley, a mix of bison, meerkats, and himself. "All right," he said, his voice firm and encouraging. "We have work to do here as well. Let's make this sanctuary as safe and comfortable as we can. Who knows how many might seek refuge here in the days to come." As they set about their tasks, reinforcing defenses, gathering food, and preparing for potential newcomers, Thunder couldn't help but gaze at the valley's entrance. He sent a silent prayer for the safety of his friends and the success of their mission. The fight for the plains had truly begun. As the day progressed, Thunder found himself constantly alternating between overseeing the fortification efforts and keeping watch at the valley's entrance. The waiting was perhaps the hardest part, not knowing what challenges his friends might be facing out there. It was late afternoon when the first sign of movement caught his attention. His muscles tensed, ready for action, but relaxed when he recognized the small, darting forms of Scout and two of his meerkat companions. "Thunder!" Scout called out as they approached, slightly out of breath. "We have news." The boar leaned in, eager to hear their report. "What did you find?" Were you successful? Scout nodded excitedly. The rabbits of the eastern meadows have agreed to join us. They're spreading the word to other rabbit warrens as we speak. And that's not all. We also made contact with a family of foxes who've been pushed out of their den by Shadow's pack. They're willing to help too. Thunder felt a surge of hope at this news. That's excellent work, Scout. Where are Ridge and the others? Ridge is leading them here, Scout explained. They should arrive by nightfall. We ran ahead to bring you the news. As they discussed the details of their diplomatic mission, another commotion at the entrance drew their attention. This time it was Luna and Fawn returning, accompanied by a small group of deer. Fawn rushed forward, her eyes shining with joy. Thunder, we found my herd, and they've agreed to join our cause. Luna, looking tired but satisfied, added, It wasn't easy convincing them at first, but once they understood the situation, they were eager to help. They've sent scouts to warn other herds as well. Thunder felt a wave of relief and pride wash over him. Their risky plan was working. They were building an alliance piece by piece. As the newcomers were welcomed into the hidden valley, Thunder called for everyone's attention. Friends old and new, he began, his voice carrying across the valley. Today marks a turning point in our struggle against Shadow and his pack. We are no longer alone in this fight. With each new ally, our strength grows. He looked at the diverse group gathered before him. Bison, deer, meerkats, and soon to be joined by rabbits and foxes. It was an unlikely alliance, but one born of necessity and united by a common goal. But this is just the beginning, Thunder continued. Shadow won't give up easily. We must be prepared for his retaliation. We must be ready to defend not just ourselves, but all those who cannot defend themselves. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. The atmosphere was charged with a mix of determination and nervous energy. Tomorrow, Thunder concluded, we'll continue our efforts to build our alliance, but tonight we rest and prepare. For soon we'll need to take the fight to Shadow himself. As the sun set on their hidden sanctuary, the expanded group settled in for the night. The valley buzzed with quiet conversations, new friendships forming, and plans being made. Thunder found a spot where he could keep watch over them all. He knew that the real challenges were yet to come, but for the first time since they'd crossed the river, he felt a genuine sense of hope. United, they stood a chance against the darkness that had fallen over the plains. As dawn broke the next day, the hidden valley was already alive with activity. The diverse group of animals had spent the night sharing stories, forming bonds, and strategizing. The air was filled with a palpable sense of purpose and unity. Thunder, who had managed only a few hours of fitful sleep, was making his rounds when Ridge approached him, his expression grave. Thunder, we need to talk, the young mountain lion said in a low voice. I've just received some troubling news from a bird messenger. Concerned, Thunder nodded and followed Ridge to a quiet corner of the valley. What is it? He asked once they were alone. Ridge took a deep breath before speaking. Shadow knows about our alliance. He's gathering his forces for a massive attack. They plan to strike at dawn tomorrow. Thunder's heart sank. They had known this moment would come, but he had hoped for more time to prepare. "How certain is this information?" "Very," Ridge replied. "The bird overheard Shadow himself giving the orders. We don't have much time." Thunder nodded grimly. "Then we must act quickly. Gather everyone. We need to form a plan." Within minutes, all the animals in the valley had assembled. Thunder stood before them, his powerful presence commanding attention. "Friends," he began, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, "we've received word that Shadow and his pack plan to attack at dawn tomorrow. We knew this day would come, but it's arrived sooner than we hoped." A ripple of fear and murmurs spread through the crowd. Thunder waited for them to quiet before continuing. "We have two choices," he said. "We can either wait here and try to defend this valley, or we can take the fight to them. Both options carry great risk." Luna stepped forward. "If we wait here, we'll be trapped." "Shadow's forces could simply surround us and wear us down." Scout, perched on a nearby rock, added, "But if we go to them, we'll be fighting on their territory. They know the land better than we do." Fawn, who had been listening intently, suddenly spoke up. "What if we did both?" All eyes turned to the young deer. Encouraged by their attention, she continued, "We could split into two groups. One stays here to protect our base and the animals who can't fight. The other group goes out to meet Shadow's forces, maybe set up an ambush." Thunder's eyes lit up with admiration. "That's actually a brilliant idea, Fawn. We could use the element of surprise to our advantage." The group spent the next few hours refining the plan. They decided that Luna would lead the defense of the hidden valley, while Thunder would lead the offensive group to confront Shadow's pack. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the valley, Thunder addressed the group one last time. "Tomorrow will be a day that changes the fate of these plains forever," he said, his voice filled with determination. "Whatever happens, remember why we fight. We fight for freedom, for peace, for the right of every animal to live without fear. Together, we are stronger than any threat we face." A chorus of cheers and roars of agreement echoed through the valley. As night fell, the animals prepared for battle, sharpening claws, practicing maneuvers, and saying their goodbyes to loved ones. Thunder found a quiet spot to rest, knowing he would need all his strength for the coming dawn. As he closed his eyes, he silently hoped that their plan would be enough to turn the tide against Shadow and his tyranny. The fate of the plains would be decided when the sun rose. As the first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, Thunder stood at the entrance of the hidden valley, surveying the group of animals gathered before him. Their faces were a mixture of determination and apprehension, but there was no turning back now. "Remember the plan," Thunder said, his voice steady and reassuring. "Luna, you and your group will defend the valley." "Scout, you and your meerkats will act as our eyes and ears, providing vital information as we move. Ridge, you'll guide us through the terrain, and Fawn, you'll lead the deer in providing swift support where needed." Each animal nodded, accepting their roles with grim determination. As they prepared to depart, Luna approached Thunder. "Be careful out there, old friend," she said softly. We'll hold the fort here no matter what comes. Thunder nodded, touched by her concern. Take care of them, Luna. We'll return as soon as we can. With final farewells exchanged, Thunder led his group out of the valley. They moved swiftly but cautiously, with Scout and his meerkats scurrying ahead as lookouts. Ridge guided them through hidden paths and dense underbrush, using his knowledge of the land to keep them concealed. As they neared the area where Shadow's pack was last seen, the group split into smaller units, each taking up strategic positions as planned. Thunder, along with Ridge and a few others, took the central position. Suddenly, Scout came racing back, his tiny chest heaving. "They're coming," he gasped. "Shadow's leading a massive force, heading straight for us." Thunder's muscles tensed. This was it. "Everyone ready yourselves," he called out. "Remember, we fight not just for ourselves, but for all who call these plains home." As if on cue, a bone-chilling howl cut through the air. Emerging from the morning mist was Shadow, his scarred face twisted in a snarl of rage. Behind him, a sea of coyotes advanced, their eyes gleaming with malice. "So the little rebellion shows itself at last," Shadow growled, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "How foolish of you to face us head-on." "Today we end this pathetic resistance." Thunder stepped forward, standing tall and unafraid. "You're wrong, Shadow. Today we end your tyranny. These plains belong to all of us, and we won't let you rule through fear any longer." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then, with a roar that seemed to shake the very ground, Thunder gave the signal. "Now!" From all directions, the allied animals burst from their hiding spots. Deer charged with their antlers lowered, foxes darted in with snapping jaws, and birds swooped from the sky, creating chaos in the coyote ranks. The battle had begun, and the fate of the plains hung in the balance. The clash of the two forces was immediate and intense. The air filled with a cacophony of growls, roars, and the thundering of hooves. Thunder charged forward, his massive tusks gleaming in the early morning light as he plowed into the ranks of coyotes, scattering them like leaves in a storm. Ridge fought beside him, his claws flashing as he fended off attackers. The young mountain lion's agility complemented Thunder's raw power, making them a formidable pair on the battlefield. Fawn and her deer herd darted in and out of the fray, using their speed to disrupt the coyotes' formation and create openings for their allies. Scout and his meerkats, true to their role, scampered across the battlefield, relaying vital information and warnings to their comrades. But Shadow's forces were numerous and fierce. For every coyote they managed to drive back, two more seemed to take its place. The battle raged on, with neither side able to gain a clear advantage. As Thunder fought, he caught glimpses of Shadow through the chaos. The coyote leader was hanging back, directing his forces from the rear. Coward, Thunder thought, gritting his teeth as he knocked aside another attacker. Suddenly, Scout's voice cut through the din. "Thunder, they're trying to flank us on the left." Reacting quickly, Thunder bellowed orders to shift their formation. Fawn and her deer immediately responded, racing to reinforce the threatened flank. Their timely intervention prevented Shadow's forces from breaking through, but the effort had cost them. Several deer lay wounded, and fatigue was beginning to show on the faces of their allies. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the battle seemed to reach a stalemate. Both sides were tiring, but neither was willing to give ground. Thunder knew they couldn't keep this up forever. They needed to end this, and soon. That's when he saw his opportunity. Shadow, perhaps growing impatient with the prolonged fight, had moved closer to the front lines. He was exposed, separated from the bulk of his forces by a small gap. Thunder locked eyes with Ridge and jerked his head towards Shadow. The mountain lion understood immediately. With a nod, Ridge let out a piercing roar that momentarily froze the battlefield. In that split second of confusion, Thunder charged. He barreled through the gap in the coyote lines, ignoring the snapping jaws and clawing paws around him. His focus was singular: Shadow. The coyote leader's eyes widened in surprise as he saw Thunder bearing down on him. For the first time, a flicker of fear crossed Shadow's scarred face. "It ends now, Shadow," Thunder roared as he closed the distance between them. The two leaders clashed in a furious tangle of tusks, claws, and fangs. The fate of the plains would be decided here, in this final confrontation. The battle around them seemed to fade into the background as Thunder and Shadow engaged in their fierce duel. Shadow was quick and vicious, his jaws snapping dangerously close to Thunder's throat. But Thunder's size and strength gave him an advantage, his powerful tusks keeping the coyote at bay. "You fool," Shadow snarled between attacks. "You think you can change the order of things?" "The strong will always dominate the weak." Thunder stood his ground, deflecting Shadow's lunges. "You're wrong, Shadow. True strength comes from unity, not fear and oppression." Their fight was a blur of motion, Shadow darting in and out with lightning speed, while Thunder used his bulk to block and counter. Both leaders bore wounds from their exchange, but neither was willing to back down. As they fought, the tide of the larger battle began to turn. Inspired by Thunder's bold move, the allied animals found renewed energy. Ridge coordinated their efforts, his voice ringing out over the chaos, directing their forces with tactical precision. Fawn and her deer herd executed swift, coordinated charges that broke through the coyote lines. Scout and his meerkats caused havoc in the enemy ranks, biting at their heels and creating distractions. The foxes and other animals fought with everything they had, driven by the hope of freedom from Shadow's tyranny. Back in the center of the fray, Thunder finally saw his opening. As Shadow lunged for another attack, Thunder sidestepped and brought the full force of his tusks to bear. The blow caught Shadow in the side, sending the coyote leader tumbling to the ground. Before Shadow could recover, Thunder pinned him down, his hoof pressing firmly on the coyote's chest. The battlefield around them grew quiet. All eyes turned to the two leaders. "It's over, Shadow," Thunder said, his voice firm but not cruel. "Call off your pack." "End this now." Shadow's eyes darted around, seeing his forces surrounded and demoralized. For a long moment he said nothing, his chest heaving under Thunder's hoof. Then, finally, he let out a long, low howl, the signal of surrender. The remaining coyotes immediately ceased fighting, many of them looking lost and confused without their leader's commands. Thunder lifted his hoof, allowing Shadow to stand. "Leave these plains," he told the defeated coyote, "and never return. The era of your tyranny is over." Shadow, his head bowed in defeat, limped away, followed by his battered pack. As they disappeared into the distance, a cheer arose from the allied animals. They had done it. They had won their freedom. But Thunder knew their work was far from over. As the excitement of victory washed over the battlefield, he turned to his friends, Ridge, Scout, Fawn, and all the others who had fought so bravely. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice carrying across the crowd. "We've won our freedom, but now we must learn to live together in peace." "It won't be easy, but I believe we can build a better future for all who call these plains home." As the sun reached its zenith, casting its warm light over the plains, the diverse group of animals began the journey back to their hidden valley. They carried with them not just the wounds of battle, but the hope of a new dawn for their home. The tale of Thunder and his allies would be told for generations to come, a story of bravery, unity, and the power of standing together against tyranny. As the victorious group made their way back to the hidden valley, Thunder couldn't help but reflect on their journey. What had started as a small band of unlikely friends had grown into a powerful alliance that had changed the fate of the plains forever. Upon reaching the valley, they were greeted by Luna and the others, who had stayed behind to defend their sanctuary. The reunion was joyous, filled with tears of relief and cries of triumph. Luna approached Thunder, her eyes shining with pride. "You did it," she said softly. "You actually did it." Thunder shook his head. "No, Luna, we did it. All of us. Together." As the excitement settled, the reality of their new situation began to sink in. They had won their freedom, but now they faced the challenge of building a new way of life on the plains. In the days that followed, animals from all over the plains began to arrive at the hidden valley. Word of Shadow's defeat had spread quickly, and many came seeking refuge or hoping to be part of this new community. Thunder, along with his close friends, found themselves in the position of leaders. They spent long hours discussing how to organize their growing society, how to ensure fairness for all species, and how to protect themselves from future threats. Fawn, whose quick thinking had been crucial in the battle, emerged as a talented diplomat. She traveled between different animal groups, mediating disputes and fostering understanding. Ridge used his knowledge of the terrain to establish safe routes and lookout points across the plains, creating a network that would alert them to any potential dangers. Scout and his meerkats took on the role of messengers and scouts, keeping all parts of their expanding community connected and informed. Luna, with her wisdom and calm demeanor, became a respected voice in their council, often providing the voice of reason in heated debates. As for Thunder, he found himself in a role he had never expected, that of a leader not just in battle, but in peace. He worked tirelessly to ensure that every animal, regardless of species or size, had a voice in their new society. It wasn't always easy. There were disagreements, misunderstandings, and moments of tension, but each time they faced a challenge, Thunder reminded everyone of what they had achieved together and what they stood to lose if they fell apart. Months passed, and the plains flourished under their cooperative leadership. The Hidden Valley, once a sanctuary, had become the heart of a thriving, diverse community. Fields that had laid barren under Shadow's reign now teemed with life. The sound of laughter and friendly chatter replaced the fearful silence that had once dominated the plains. One evening, as the sun set over their transformed home, Thunder stood at the entrance of the valley, watching the peaceful activity below. Luna joined him, a contented smile on her face. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" she asked. Thunder shook his head, a mix of amazement and pride in his eyes. "Never. But it's more wonderful than anything I could have dreamed." As they stood there, Scout came scampering up, excitement evident in his small frame. "Thunder, Luna, come quick!" The first eggs of the season are hatching. With a shared laugh, Thunder and Luna followed Scout down into the valley. As they joined the crowd gathering to welcome the newest members of their community, Thunder felt a profound sense of joy and purpose. They had not just won a battle, they had created a home where all could thrive together. And as he looked at the faces of his friends, old and new, Thunder knew that whatever challenges the future might bring, they would face them as one. The story of the plains had entered a new chapter, one of hope, unity, and endless possibilities. As the sun set on another day in the thriving plains, Thunder gazed out over the community he and his friends had built. The once hidden valley now bustled with life, a testament to what could be achieved through unity and compassion. He watched as young animals of different species played together, their laughter echoing across the fields. Nearby, a group of elders, a mix of bison, deer, foxes, and even a few reformed coyotes, sat in a circle, sharing stories and wisdom. In the distance, Scout and his meerkat family darted about, keeping a watchful eye on the horizon, ever vigilant but no longer afraid. Luna approached, standing beside him in comfortable silence for a moment before speaking. "You know, Thunder," she said softly, "what we've built here, it's more than just a safe haven. It's a blueprint for a better world." Thunder nodded, his eyes misting slightly with emotion. "We've come so far," he replied, "from a small group of desperate fugitives to this, a place where every animal can live free and unafraid." As if on cue, Fawn appeared, followed by Ridge. They had both grown into respected leaders in their own right, their youthful energy tempered now with wisdom and experience. "The delegates from the southern forests have arrived," Fawn announced. "They're eager to learn about our way of life," Ridge added, "and the Bird Scouts report that more animals are making their way here, seeking to join our community." Thunder felt a swell of pride and hope. What had started as a desperate stand against tyranny had blossomed into something far greater, a beacon of hope for all the animals of the plains and beyond. "Then let's go welcome them," Thunder said, his voice strong and warm. "Let's show them what we can achieve when we stand together." As they made their way down to greet the newcomers, Thunder reflected on their journey. They had faced fear, overcame seemingly insurmountable odds, and emerged not just victorious but transformed. They had learned that true strength comes not from domination, but from unity, not from fear, but from understanding. The plains, once a battleground, had become a shining example of what was possible when different species came together in harmony. And as Thunder looked at the faces of his friends, Luna, Scout, Ridge, Fawn, and countless others, he knew that whatever challenges the future might bring, they would face them together, just as they always had. Their story, which had begun in darkness and fear, had become a tale of hope, courage, and the enduring power of friendship. It was a story that would be told for generations to come, inspiring others to believe in the possibility of a better world, a world where all creatures, great and small, could live together in peace and prosperity. And so, as the stars began to twinkle in the twilight sky, Thunder and his friends stood together, guardians of a new era on the plains, their hearts full of hope for the bright future they had built side by side.